Okay, so if you aren't aware of what's been happening in the last 3 to 4 days, there was a playtest for this new Roblox Demon Slayer game called New Moon. And just like every other anime game that comes out nowadays, it was hyped up by hundreds of TikTokers, bunch of content creators. So yeah, you can probably guess how that turned out. Anyways, the playtest for New Moon dropped on the 9th, and all I'm gonna say is New Moon made history. Congratulations, New Moon. You have officially made history for being the first Roblox game to drop a playtest and shut the game down all in one day. I have never, and I mean never, seen anything like this. Bro, the playtest was supposed to last for a week, but they got so much backlash and everybody hated the playtest. It was so bad that they shut the game down after like 12 hours. Now, I had the small hope in the back of my mind that this playtest was going to be like at least decent. It didn't have to be perfect. It didn't have to be great. It just had to be decent because Roblox is so bad right now. There's nothing to play. There's nothing to upload. But like even then, I still realistically wasn't expecting the New Moon playtest to be super insane or anything like that, because if you do a little bit of research, you'll see that the project lead for the game is Zai or XY, or I don't know how to say his name. I don't really care either. But yeah, he's the project lead for this game. I'm not going to mention that situation because it's a sensitive topic and that shit is weird, and I'm not a drama YouTuber. But if you know anything about the games that he's been a part of before, you can probably guess that this game will not last long. I mean, it's the same dude who was responsible for Ghoul, same dude that took over 4 Blues, and that game was involved in drama a couple months ago because of some scamming shit. I don't really know the whole details. Apparently, he's responsible for bringing that ninja game back, and as I'm recording this, he's on the fucking sorcery team now. Yeah, long story short, that nigga is a bad omen. The more I think about it, the more I realize your reputation as a Roblox dev actually influences so much when it comes to like how well your game is received. With the way things have been going these past couple months, the success of your game is genuinely based more on the developer who made it and not the actual game itself. That's why games like Type Soul were allowed like 4 releases, because for some odd reason, niggas just love glazing Setro. I don't know what it is. Like, I truly believe that if this playtest was made by like a random group of devs that people haven't heard of before, it would not have been received like as bad as it was. The fact that it was the Ghoul devs behind this, niggas already knew this shit was not gonna be good. Anyways, the playtest was so bad. Like, there were a total of 200,539 players, well, last time I checked, who obtained the badge for playing the playtest. That means across the span of 12 hours, they went from possibly having upwards of 200,000 players on the game at once to having like 40k players after the first 30 minutes. Now, 40k players isn't bad, don't get me wrong, but that's still like an 80% player decrease. And I already know some people are gonna go in the comments and say some shit like, oh, it's just a playtest, the game was made in 3 months, blah, 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 it's not supposed to be perfect. Yeah, obviously, but I'm so tired of that excuse. I understand it's a playtest, it's not the same as full release. I'm not hopping in this game expecting to have like weeks worth of end game content and all types of crazy shit, but at some point you gotta stop giving people excuses and realize that the game is just not that good. It's not impossible for a game to release a playtest and be well received. The Nethros playtest was like a month ago. That was pretty good. At the beginning of the year, there's this game called Everbloom that had a playtest. I love that shit. That was pretty good as well. Like, the worst part about those playtests was the fact that they ended. And I'm sure, people can go in the comments and name even more playtests like in the past that were actually good. But the thing that confuses me the most about this playtest is it's the fact that they decided to close it after 12 hours. Like, yeah, the playtest was bad, but in all honesty, they should have kept it open. Development can be weird, so like 1 minute you think, you found all the bugs and the game is fine for release, but then you open the game, people start flooding in, and you start seeing shit that you've never seen before. Even if the playtest was bad, they should have kept the game open because it would have made it way easier to find bugs. It would have allowed people to give way more feedback. It would have helped the game way more in the long run, because closing the playtest early was probably the worst decision they could have made, because now nobody can play the game and the only thing that people are going to remember is how bad the playtest was on day 1. This shit was supposed to last for an entire week. Y'all could have turned this around and had the craziest clutch of all time if you just had people playing the game and listen to the feedback. But I haven't even started to explain what made the playtest so bad. I'm gonna be completely honest, I low-key knew this shit was doomed from the start, because less than 30 minutes before the game dropped, or the playtest, whatever, same shit, they had a stage in the Discord, right? And you know, the devs were all in there talking about the game, and they're like, oh yeah, game's coming out soon, blah blah blah. I think that stage was like 2 hours long, of just them stalling because the game was not coming out on time. 30 minutes before the game dropped, some dude joined the stage and started talking about how there were still game-breaking bugs in the game, and like the tutorial wasn't working and he couldn't move and all types of shit, and niggas started crashing out, bro. Keep in mind, this happened while the game was getting published, so the game was gonna get published with these bugs. But let's actually talk about the game. First of all, I don't even think it would be crazy to say that the most impressive parts of the game were the intro cutscene and the tutorial cutscene. I'm gonna be completely honest. Whenever you load into a game and you see like the craziest well-made intro cutscene of all time, chances are the actual game is shit. Type Soul had it, Ghoulry had it, and to nobody's surprise, New Moon has it as well. You know, everything after the tutorial was either boring as hell or it was just bugged, so it wouldn't work. And the early game progression was just such a hassle to deal with, and God forbid you decided that you wanted to be a demon instead of a slayer, it was actually 50 times worse. So when I got into the game, I picked Slayer, so I can't speak for the demons as much, but from what I experienced, I can tell you that the power gap between an early game Slayer and an early game demon, it's quite literally night and day. As a Slayer, the first thing you do after completing the tutorial is spawning in the town and joining the Slayer Corps. And then once you talk to the NPC and join, you have to go and find a breathing trainer and, you know, choose your breathing. I'm pretty sure that on the release, there were 6 breathings available. There was water, flame, wind, mist, beast, and insect, right? Before the game dropped, the dev told me that lightning was gonna be in the game on release, but surprise, surprise, it wasn't in the fucking game. That's what I wanted to make my video on. Like, I wanted to hop in the game and use lightning breathing, but it wasn't in the game. Also, I'm pretty sure half the breathings in the game were bugged at the start, so you couldn't even get them. Everybody that I saw in the game had water or flame. I didn't see a single insect user, I didn't see a single wind user, and I think I only saw like 1 mist user, and the only reason I remember that is because their player was bugged and they were invisible, so the only thing I could see was their flash step. I chose beast breathing, and you know, that worked for me, so that's just what I went with. Speaking of flash step, when you pick a breathing trainer, right, you immediately unlock a flash step. Half of the flash steps in the game didn't even have sound effects, and to make things worse, if you're a demon, you don't even get a flash step, or maybe you do, but it definitely isn't obtainable as early as it is for slayers. Once you pick a breathing and you unlock your flash step and all that, it's finally time to progress the game, right? Sounds exciting, but then you realize the only thing you can do is queue up for 1v1 missions against other players. I was told that there was like PvE progression with demons spawning around the map during nighttime or something like that, but during my gameplay, I never saw anything like that. I don't remember seeing anyone else do it, so I wouldn't be surprised if it just wasn't in the game. Because I'm gonna say this real quick, I was in a group chat with like 8 other YouTubers and one of the devs, and they told us, I remember Nikalem asked, he said, is full prog gonna be in the game? And dude said yeah, but if there's anything that isn't in the game, it's because the scripters took it out. So if it wasn't in the game, that's why. Going back to the, you know, 1v1 missions, the craziest thing about those PvP missions is the fact that you can queue up against your own faction. So if I'm a slayer, I can queue up for a 1v1 mission, and then it'll task me to kill another slayer for my mission. That doesn't even make sense. I unironically killed more slayers during my prog than I killed demons. I don't know, bro. I don't know what could possibly possess someone to think that killing people in your own faction for progression is a good idea. It's not my game. What can I say? I feel like the only time where you should be killing somebody from your own team or whatever for progression is if you're playing like a Naruto game and you're trying to get MS. That's it. Other than that, there's no reason why you should be doing that. Assuming you don't die at all in your missions, it probably takes around like 4 or 5 wins to move on to the next stage of progression, which is the final selection. But guess what? That shit didn't work either. So I had to end my video early because I literally couldn't prog until I completed the final selection, which at the time, you know, was bugged, unavailable, couldn't do anything. I would press P to look at all the locations on the map, and it was literally just in the sky. Like, you couldn't even go to it. It was in the sky. Unless you had wings, you weren't doing final selection. It did end up getting fixed, but from what I saw with other people, you could literally climb a tree, go AFK, wait until sunrise, and then boom, final selection done. I don't know. I think demons were actually spawning there, but what's the point of fighting the demons when you could just climb a tree? Might as well just make it an AFK chamber at that point. Another thing that I didn't mention was that there's global events in this game. So every 30 minutes real time, there could be like a gladiator, you know, team deathmatch, capture the flag. You know, every game is adding that nowadays, which I don't have a problem with that. But unlike other games that have these global events. In New Moon, you don't have the option to like choose whether you want to join the event or not. So let's say I'm in the middle of a mission and a gladiator starts, I'm gonna get bugged. There's a 99.9% chance I'm gonna get bugged, and there's nothing I can do about it. It happened to me twice in the same video. The first time it happened, we didn't even get teleported to the event. We were just stuck in the forest with, we couldn't M1, we couldn't do anything. All we could do was walk and jump. I had to leave. The second time it happened, we got into the gladiator. I actually spawned in and started fighting, but since it happened mid-mission, people were bugged, and the gladiator went from being a 2v2 to a 2v1 because my teammate didn't even spawn in. And the funniest thing about it was that as soon as I died, it wasn't bugged anymore, and then it became a 2v2 again. I swear, we actually would have won that gladiator if it wasn't a 2v1 for the first 10 minutes. I don't know why they would add global events and not give you the opportunity to opt out. You would think you could just server hop and go to a server that doesn't have an event going on, but I'm pretty sure, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the global events are based on real time and not server time. So even if you leave one gladiator server, you join another one, there's still an event. So you're gonna have to wait 15 minutes regardless. Let's talk about the combat though, because that was honestly the only thing that you could do in the game after the tutorial. Surely for a playtest where the combat is the only real thing available, you would assume that the combat is good, right? Well, I don't think the combat was super ass or anything, but it definitely wasn't super good either. It was just decent. It was decent enough, at least mechanic wise, right? Simply put, you have your M1s, you have your crit, you have dodging, and you have parrying, and you can delay your M1s and crit by holding down the button. By the way, the devs saw that 4Blues had that mechanic and just ripped it right off of them. I'm not saying 4Blues created that mechanic, but they did take that shit because they saw it in 4Blues. This is literally what the dev told us. I don't want to say too much about the sound effects, but the M1s sounded so fucking bad. It was actually giving me a headache. Imagine having to hear that shitty ass sound effect everywhere you go because everybody's running around doing combat and nobody has skills. You just hear that shitty ass M1 sound over and over again, bro. I was actually about to lose it. Oh yeah. Bro, these sound effects are so trash. Balancing, on the other hand, was absolute dog shit. They made a parry-based game, but they didn't add feinting, they didn't add dodge canceling or anything like that. And perhaps the reason for that was because of the whole like M1 and crit delaying mechanic, but I don't know. I still feel like having those mechanics in the game would have made the game more fun, because not having them in the game made this shit feel super one-dimensional and boring. Not to mention, the parry window was ass. It was so bad. And I also found out quickly, after you get parried, you can literally just hold F and buffer a free parry as long as your opponent swings back immediately, which most people will do because, they land a parry and they expect to get a counterattack. But nope, you can just hold F and get a free parry. That's probably the only time you're gonna see a parry trade in that game, if people are just buffering their parry and swinging back immediately over and over again. Even in the case that someone tries to delay an M1 or a crit to throw you off, you could just flash step away. You're not gonna get hit. Well, if you're a slayer, you can flash step away. If you're a demon, you're fucked. There's also this system in the game where if you get knocked back into a wall, it stuns you for like some extra time. So basically what most people would do, they would just knock you against a wall and spam M1s and spam crit for an infinite like GPO wall combo. And this was a legitimate strategy because the parry window in this game is so bad, you couldn't escape it. You would just infinitely get M1. This game is a M1 simulator. Even with all the broken ass skills, it's an M1 simulator because you can't parry anything. And for all the people that chose to go demon, I'm praying for you. If you thought Slayer prog was bad, just imagine that and make it even worse. Like I said earlier, I picked Slayer, so I don't know all the details, but what I do know is this: demons don't have a flash step, they burn in the sun, and it takes them literally hours to get their first skill. As a Slayer, I unlocked my first skill before I even got to the final selection. And another thing about skills, they're unbalanced as fuck. The first beast breathing skill that I got was, I think it was called like Fang Pierce or something like that. If you ever played Hinokami Chronicles, you probably recognize this move because let's be honest, every single Demon Slayer game nowadays will base their entire movesets off of Hinokami Chronicles. Yeah. Shonen Unleashed, your game is cool, but I'm talking about you as well. Anyways, the move was absolutely busted, bro. It was on a 4-second cooldown. Yes, 4 seconds. It hits twice and it knocks back. So if I got somebody on a wall, I could just abuse them with an infinite 4-second beast breathing skill spam, crit spam, M1 spam, wall splat combo of doom and gloom until they die. So while Slayers are running around with flash steps and 4-second cooldown skills, demons have to play the game with no skills, no flash step, and no weapons. Because, they don't get a weapon either, but when you're a Slayer and you join the corp or whatever, you get a katana. Demons are literally just running around with nothing except their fist. Another thing that adds to the gap between factions is that when you're low low in this game, you don't get reduced movement speed. So imagine what happens when a demon gets a Slayer low and the Slayer starts running. The demon doesn't have a flash step, remember? So yeah, that Slayer is fucking gone. Don't even try to chase him in the daytime because you'll burn to a crisp as soon as you leave the shadows. I didn't even go into bugs, but there's this one specific bug that really stood out to me. It was so unbelievable. It didn't even make me mad. It was just funny as hell. You know how in most games, right, you can say MB all or my bad all or whatever to take whoever you hit out of combat so they can like heal and shit. Well, in this game, I don't know what the scripters were smoking, but when you say MB all, it doesn't take your opponent out of combat. It takes you out of combat. So now you could, bro, people can literally just say MBO whenever they get low and run away and heal back to full while their opponent's still in combat. If you're a demon and you pair this with the fact that you can't catch a Slayer due to having no flash step, oh my, bro, there's just no point in fighting. There's no point in fighting at that point. But long story short, the playtest was ass. It's really unfortunate to see stuff like this because not only as a player, but as a content creator, all I want to do is get on a game and realize that I can play it and make content on it for more than a day. Roblox is such a hollow platform right now, and even when games like Resaix or some other shit drops, I don't know how long it's going to take for the rest of the platform to change. But if there's anything that you should take with you at the end of this video is this: a game being a playtest is not an excuse for it to be a buggy, unenjoyable mess. And also, if XY wants to work on your game, please, for the love of God, say no. Please, whatever you do, do not let that nigga on your team.